Welcome to the SCV Law and Life podcast. I'm Mason Roshdian. Each week I sit down with people in the legal world and beyond to talk about the strategies that are actually working for them in law, in life, and everything in between. Real conversations, real lessons, and ideas you can actually use. Let's get into it. Hi everyone, I'm Mason Roshdian, your host. Today on the SCV Law and Life podcast, I'm excited to have with us Ron James. We're diving into one of the most fascinating and controversial topics in the world right now. That is UFOs, UAPs, government disclosure, and what may really be happening behind the scenes. Joining us is award-winning filmmaker Ron James, the Media Relations Director for MUFON, the world's largest civilian UFO investigation organization, and the creator of the groundbreaking documentary Accidental Truth Revelations, which may be considered one of the most compelling UFO documentaries ever made. Ron is back with his explosive new film, Accidental Truth Next, Beyond UFO Disclosure, releasing June 2nd on major streaming platforms. Today, we'll discuss the current state of UFO disclosure, what's happening inside Congress. We're going to discuss the missing UFO scientists. We may dive into Steven Spielberg's upcoming film Disclosure Date, and why sightings and reports seem to be increasing across the globe. Ron, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on. I'm excited.
So I'm extremely excited. So I gave you a little background of who you are. Can you take a couple of minutes and tell us more about who you are and what you do, please, and your background?
Yeah. Since the early 2000s, I've been in the video production business, and I've always been an armchair aficionado, so to speak, of the UFO question, even as a kid. In about 2006, my company was hired by Stephen Bassett of Paradigm Research Group to go to Washington, D.C. and film and live stream his X conference, and later the Citizen Hearing on Disclosure and other things that him and I did together. And it was at that time that I got to meet all of these people that I'd been watching on TV my whole life. You know, Stanton Friedman was there, and there's Nick Pope, and there's Richard Dolan, and there's George Knapp, and Dr. Edgar Mitchell, the astronaut. And I'm hanging out with these guys all of a sudden. And I started getting to know some of these people, and I realized how dedicated they were to trying to get out the truth to the people. And so I started making productions around the UFO topic, and I also cover life after death and the whole nature of reality in the subject matter in my films. But yeah, that's what did it for me, was to meet the people and understand how important the cause was.
Okay, and I know you're affiliated with MUFON, and for people who may not know, MUFON stands for Mutual UFO Network. And how long has it been around?
It's been around since 1955, or I'm sorry, it's in its 60th year, so that makes it, I forgot the year it was.
About 65.
Yeah,
probably.
It was around then. MUFON was formed right after Project Blue Book closed down, and it was a group of civilians. It originally was a few different UFO groups around the country, but what people don't know, unless they're really studying history, is that the UFO topic was huge back in the 50s and 60s. It was as big, if not bigger, than it is today. There were all kinds of books written. There was all kinds of documentaries made, TV shows. Members of the military were coming forward saying there's things in the sky we can't identify. Basically what we're seeing today is a repeat performance of something we saw years ago. And so MUFON was formed at the closing of Project Blue Book. The Air Force literally gave the MUFON people their training guides for how to document these cases. And so from a civilian perspective, MUFON kind of took over that work and built an organization, the only one even today, that literally has field investigators who have been trained all over the world to go and actually do real investigations of worthy UFO reports. And so all these years later, we've got nearly 200,000 cases in our files. We have been working directly with Congress for years now, behind the scenes and quietly, to move the UFO disclosure movement forward in the political process. And anybody that really wants to be part of an organization that's really making a difference should consider, maybe joining MUFON. You could be a field investigator if you want, or you could just hang out and go to cool events and talk to other people that have similar views. So yeah, MUFON is still today the oldest, largest, and I think one of the best. It's the only one that's actually doing work. There's a lot of organizations that are just trying to collect UFO reports, but we don't really. They're not sending out investigators. So MUFON's it still to this day.
Right. That is awesome. That is awesome. So, Accidental Truth Revelations. When did you start working on that project, and what was your purpose behind that one?
Well, I've made several UFO TV, web series and TV shows around the UFO topic, and I did the Disclosure Dialogues in 2012 that won a bunch of awards. It was one of the very first disclosure documentaries that was out there, and I interviewed Lou Elizondo in 2018, I think, and he said some things in that interview that I found very compelling, and so I was going to build the whole film just around the information that I had on Lou Elizondo, but as the project evolved, it just got bigger and bigger. And the kind of underlying theme in this movie is that people that I was interviewing would say things that they didn't really mean to say. And so it starts off, an accidental truth is what happens when something is said or inferred or revealed that they didn't want you to know. And so that's where I kind of got the name. And I guess it's not an original name. I thought it up, but you know how that works. But yeah, so Accidental Truth UFO Revelations contains a lot of information where people that are supposed to be keeping secrets, there's many times in the film where they slip up and they let something go. And hence the title. It won 28 film festival awards. It's been seen by millions of people all over the world. And I'm really proud of it and proud to have done it. People can watch it now on YouTube for free. And since the new one's coming out, I encourage you to do it. And so now I'm on to the next one. Matthew Modine is back as the narrator. Thomas Jane, the actor from The Expanse and the original Punisher, has a key role in this. And then we have music by Alan Howarth. He did the soundtrack. He's the guy that did Halloween, all of John Carpenter's movies, Escape from New York, Christine, and a bunch of that stuff. So it's really good to have all these people.
Yeah, I know it was released in 2023, and you won a first ever Parapod Awards in 2023 for this film, right?
I did, and it's really funny. In the new film, we show me receiving that award, and I'm like, because it's a really cool looking award. It looks like an alien. And I told the audience, I said, Accidental Truth has won a bunch of awards. It's not even out yet, but this is the one I really wanted. And because it was just such a cool looking trophy.
And the award was given in my hometown, Santa Clarita. That's where I'm at.
Okay.
So
were you there?
I wasn't there. No. And honestly, I'm going to go back and now watch your other films. I've seen Accidental Truth, obviously Revelations, and I'm actually seeing the new one, most of it. I didn't get to finish all of it, but I have a advanced copy. But I need to go back to watch the original stuff that you did, because I honestly didn't know you had other stuff in there. So I'm glad you told me about that.
It's over the years, so some of them are hard to find. But I could have Dan send you a link to the original doc from 2012. But I've done a bunch of stuff. Most of it lives on my YouTube channel or on MUFON Television, which is my online TV channel, where we've got hundreds and hundreds of hours of commercial-free UFO material.
Got it. Okay. I have the trailer for the new one. Let's see if I can get this to work. Wait, let me do this. Presentation. Honestly, I've done many of these, but I've never had one that I actually put on here as far as a trailer goes. Oops. I tried doing it, but it wouldn't let me do it unless I had it was going live, because it's too big of a file, so I couldn't download it originally. So I apologize.
Well, you're going to edit this, right? You want to put it in and then just come back?
Yeah, I could do that. I will put this when I know this is live, but we're going to later on go ahead and add that to the trailer. And I apologize. Okay, so the new one comes out June 2nd, 2026. Where can folks find the new one?
Where did I find it?
No. I'm sorry. Where when he gets dropped?
Oh,
What
let's
streaming
start over.
channel?
Let's come back like we just watched the trailer, and then
Okay.
because you have seen it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and then that way the edit will make sense.
Okay. Well, okay. Well, unfortunately, since we're live, this is not.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were recording. Hello, audience. We're embarrassing. I'm embarrassing myself. Okay.
No, you're fine. Well, we are live, but I am gonna put this back on my channel with the actual portion of it. It's just I wish I could put this on, and I don't know why, and I totally apologize. Now I feel embarrassed. Well, let's see if this will work. Oh, come on. Okay, well, let's see if I can figure out.
A link to the trailer in the.
I will put a link absolutely on the video, but it's gonna come out on June 2nd, and you can find this on various streaming channels, right?
Yes, it'll be on Amazon. You can pre-order it right now on Apple TV, and if you pre-order it and you send us an email through the Accidental Truth Next website, we're going to give you access to some behind-the-scenes videos that nobody else is going to see. And then it'll also be available on YouTube Movies and TV.
Got it. Okay. Perfect. Okay. Oh, here we go.
Hey, there's aliens.
We already know life exists in the universe.
It's been over 8 years since we heard about the government UFO program, ATIP. Are we any closer to an official government disclosure regarding non-human intelligence?
They briefed us on some stuff that was, frankly, terrifying.
The DoD and the intelligence community is very comfortable saying it's unknown.
What are we actually talking about?
I can't share with you the details, ma'am.
There are those who will stop at nothing to hide the truth.
Whistleblowers are safe. I will guarantee that.
I have no job. My career has been tarnished.
People have been killed.
It's likely a balloon, a bird.
It's starting to sound like a broken record.
Exotic materials are the holy grail.
I was on the team that was supposed to receive that.
What I really wanted to do was put some materials in the hands of Arrow.
That came from a UFO.
My bit is stuck. We'll have to try something else.
I mean, that stuff should have liquefied like mercury by now.
I thought it should have. I have no explanation for that.
This is a technology that has long since bled into what we call consciousness.
I'm here to drop off the samples.
Could non-human intelligence come in many forms?
Our historical timeline has been interrupted by an alien intelligence.
There is a variety of life forms.
From the earliest times, we've had writings of people interacting with non-human intelligence.
People have accepted these things as real.
All of this has to do with the nature of reality itself.
When I say we're in a simulation, there is something that is computing. We live in something that has a software program.
It's all about consciousness.
Perhaps we've been guided subtly and deliberately.
All the religions have been telling us that there are other beings.
We're in the middle of a revolution right now.
There is a dark side to disclosure, a secret too terrible to be told.
Our future is post-biological. In a sense, they're midwives or undertakers.
The humans served their purpose.
It may not mean surrendering our spirituality.
You can only beat down the truth for so long.
We're at a point where reality doesn't matter.
We have all new questions. It's time to discover what's next. Accidental Truth, Next, a film by Ron James, narrated by Matthew Modine.
There you go.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm excited to see the whole thing when it comes out.
Yeah, I mean, it's taken me 2 years to get this movie done, and I didn't think it was going to take that long, but I kept hanging out in Washington, D.C., thinking something was going to happen. You know, there's going to be one more hearing. There's going to be one more revelation. You got to put off the film until the next announcement. And I finally gave up on Washington, D.C. And, I think that there's a lot of really good people there doing a lot of really good work, and they're genuine and they really do care about disclosure, and kudos to them. But they're up against an establishment that's going to be very tough to beat. And so right in the middle of the movie, we actually have a scene where the record player needle skips across a record. And, I make that reference to Washington starting to sound like a broken record, and it really is. And even with this new drop of supposed new information, a lot of that stuff was in the public domain already. A lot of it has been debunked. Some of the key videos that they put out, people are already figuring out what they are, and they're nothing unusual. So, my prediction about disclosure being very limited is actually turning out to be correct.
Yeah, I know in the film you have various people that you're right, we've seen in a long time, like Nick Pope, who unfortunately has passed away by now from cancer about a couple of months ago. I know Lou Elizondo's in there. And I know he was, when you talk about going against the establishment, we know he did, and he got a lot of crap for it, obviously. But when you talk about broken record, my understanding is that Arrow, who Congress came up with, really didn't do much, right? That was one of the ones with Gillibrand.
Yeah, we really take a little bit of a dive into Arrow, and it seems like they were just set up to be another disinformation group. We had this happen before. We had the Robertson panel, which was, and even Project Blue Book. In the first movie we interview J. Allen Hynek's son, who grew up with Project Blue Book, talking about how the whole thing was just a whitewash. It was let's go find these things, let's figure out a way to debunk them, and let's tell the public it's nothing. And then we had the Robertson panel that gathered. Their conclusion was already made before they even met. It was already designated what they were going to say. So that was a dog and pony show. And then we got Arrow, and I interviewed Kirsten Gillibrand, and she really believes that, at least at the time, that Arrow was the way to affect change in government. But it just turned out to be another whitewash of everything. We had Sean Kirkpatrick, who really behaved like he was bored of the whole topic. He is a scientist, but he's also a veteran intelligence guy, so he knows how to run an op. And in the new movie, we plenty of people come forward talking about how they went to Arrow and they were either dismissed, or Arrow did not act on their information, or they actually got in trouble for showing up and trying to tell the truth. So yeah, we have another organization that really didn't do what it was supposed to do, and probably did more harm than good.
Have you seen Congress move in any direction toward disclosure in the past few years, or is it still the same whitewash that we're getting?
Well, look, here's how this has evolved, and it's very interesting, and I can illustrate a point. When we got the stuff in 2017, that's what I call the new age, the age of the new narrative. We can just say that started with Lou and Chris and excuse me, the Tic Tacs coming out. So we had that. And then a lot of people in Congress were really rabid, oh, we're going to get to the truth. I'm going to go for this. This is going to be one of my main causes. Marco Rubio was leading the fray. Andre Carson was kind of involved, although he kind of floated the new narrative at the hearing. And that new narrative is, hey, we quit studying the stuff at the end of Blue Book, and there's nothing to see here. We haven't been reverse engineering spacecraft. What are you talking about, right? So the whole whitewash of the history, for a variety of reasons, is the story they're trying to make us believe. So we had these Congress people come out that were really into it. Obviously Tim Burchett was the leading guy. He literally put his whole political fortunes on the line to embrace this topic. And I guess he does a great job also as being the representative for his district. But the UFO thing has been the sword he carries. In the beginning, it was all, it's a big cover up, the government, blah, 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 blah. But I really want to get disclosure. But here's what happened, Mason, that people don't understand. In the very beginning, somebody who's in the know, somebody who works in a program, somebody top secret at the Pentagon, CIA, they could go into Tim Burchett's office, but he did not have the security clearance for them to really be able to tell him anything. So these guys they're meeting with all these people, but they're not getting any information because they're not cleared. So a lot of people are like, well, how come he can't just get these people to tell him what's going on? And that's why, because you have to have the clearances to hear the info. So that's how it started. They would hear, they'd get, secondhand stories, but nobody walked in there with classified material and dropped it on their desk and said, this is what's going on. But now we're almost 10 years later, and these people have had time to get their clearances. And many of them did, including Tim Burchett. And so now he's in a position where he can hear this stuff. So that's why you hear more often, well, I was in a skiff, because he is getting briefed at a higher level. Now, whether he's being told the whole truth about the topic by inside government, I highly doubt, but he's being told things that he wasn't told before. So unfortunately, when that happens, you now become one of the people keeping the secrets instead of one of the people trying to expose the secrets. And so the rhetoric coming out of people in DC went from, we're going to get to the bottom of this, we're going to rally for the truth, the people deserve the truth, has now evolved into the same old, well, I was briefed and I can't discuss what I was told. So it's like I told these people when I talk to them, people that know what's going on in the field, I'm like, don't tell me if you don't want it in my next film, because I'm not going to carry the burden of your secret. And now we have a bunch of people in Congress that are carrying the burden of the secret. And so now they've become part of the process and the narrative.
I know in the film we do see a lot of the former intelligence officers or pilots testifying before Congress. Do you know how many actually have approached Congress with this issue? Has it been more than 5 or 6 I've seen?
Oh, yeah. There's been a steady parade of military pilots and witnesses and intel people through meetings in Washington, D.C. I know, MUFON alone has briefed. We've had 300 meetings with members of Congress and their staff. And what we're able to do that other people inside government are not able to do is that, we've come across our information fair and square. We've dug things up. We've done investigations. We can report on this stuff without the constraints of, that's classified. So I was able to go in and just tell Congressman Burchett way back at the beginning of this, I think it was 2022, look, Tim, I don't know what you're hearing from these other people, but this is what's going on. And we covered everything from Roswell forward and all of the lies. And people wonder if the politicians are hearing the story from the independent UFO community. So not only did I put it in the new film that, yes, they are being told, I recorded the conversation with Mr. Burchett, and the audience is going to get to see that, yes, independent UFO investigator walks into Congress and tells them what's going on. And so they know. And that was really cool and very important. But they're getting a steady stream of witnesses through there constantly. Okay.
Before Senator Harry Reid passed, did you ever get a chance to talk to him about this?
I did not. I really regret that. I wanted to be involved in that conversation. I didn't get very far in Las Vegas. I tried to get Robert Bigelow. I tried to get Harry Reid before he went. James Fox got him, so that was good. At least somebody did, right? But that whole thing, and it's been a big mystery to me, and we finally solved the mystery in the new Accidental Truth movie as to what was going on with Bigelow Aerospace, his program, and these materials that he was supposed to get. In the first movie, we're trying to get to the bottom of whether or not Robert Bigelow got those materials. And there's a scene in the movie where it looks like he's lying about at least having seen the materials. And so I've always been of the mind that he probably did receive these materials inside Bigelow Aerospace and just wasn't saying that it was true. But in the hearings, thanks to us, we were in the back of the room texting questions in real time to the congressman to ask. He asked Lou Elizondo about the materials in Lockheed Martin, and Lou finally accidentally spilled the beans that, yes, it was Lockheed Martin that had materials that they've had for some time, that these were the materials that they were supposed to be transferring to Bigelow Aerospace for further research. And yes, the CIA or one of the intelligence agencies blocked the transfer. And so those materials never got to Bigelow Aerospace. So mystery solved there. At least we know the materials existed, and we know that Bigelow never got them, and we blow the lid off that in the second movie. So yeah.
I know Bigelow used to own Skinwalker Ranch, and he's never said anything to the new crew when they took it over after it was purchased by Brandon Fugel, I believe.
Yeah.
So it's the same exact thing. The only thing I've ever seen Bigelow talk to is George Knapp and the interviews. I don't think he's ever talked to anybody else. So yeah, he's very hush-hush about what he has and what he doesn't have.
You know, it's interesting. I wish it wasn't that way, but you know, Robert Bigelow's information is his, and and that includes all of the research with the OSOP program. It includes all of the stuff that happened at Skinwalker Ranch. I'm pretty sure there was, you know, as the ranch changed hands, there was some kind of exchange of information. But you know, the files from Skinwalker Ranch are, you know, vaulted at Bigelow Aerospace, and they are full of amazing things that happened over those years. The whole story behind that, the government, there was a time when under Robert Bigelow that place was crawling with everything from government scientists to special forces guys. It was a hotbed of activity. John Alexander, who's in both my movies and I've come to consider a friend, has told me all kinds of stories about things that happened out at that ranch. That when they did the transfer to the new owners and made the TV show about it, you know, this is another piece of organized disclosure. I was told by one of the stars of the show, like 4 years ago, that there's the remains of a spacecraft or technology inside that mesa. They already know what's there. I'm convinced. They're just rolling it out to the public in you know, a way that will take forever and sell toilet paper, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. It came back last night, and they found some additional material in there that they're testing to see how old it is. It could be a lot older than people realize. So we'll see.
You know, this is the same people that make the Curse of Oak Island, and you know, these TV shows are a lot like Disclosure. Drip, drip, drip. We're going to make this go on for 20 years.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, just do a thought experiment, Mason. Is like, there's evidence that whole mesa has been dug up, blown up, and covered up. Just looking at the geology of it, do you really think they don't know what's in there?
Yeah.
You know, there's evidence that it was excavated back in the 50s from aerial photographs. They found pieces of metal on the property with NASA stamped on them. I asked Travis Taylor what that was, and he said that it had something to do with markers for the space shuttle or something. But you know, that whole place is weird. They know what's going on there.
Yeah. Did they find like a coin that was from like 50, 60 years ago inside the mesa?
Yeah,
I mean, that tells you right there.
I mean, you know, that's proof that it was excavated in the past. Yeah. I mean, that's absolute proof. You don't have a coin inside a mountain.
So let me ask you this. I know there have been talks about reverse engineering, and some folks say they're doing it. Some people said they have not been able to do it. What are your thoughts? Do you think we should be reverse engineering any alien technology that's found or not?
Well, of course. And you know, there's probably a decent reason to keep it a secret. But the success with reverse engineering, from what I've heard over the years, from some people who know and some people who speculate, is that they've had some victories, but there's a lot of things they just can't figure it out. You know, it's kind of like that. You hear the analogy a lot, like, you know, hey, your dog might be very, very smart, but you're never going to teach him how to drive your car. You know, it's the same thing. It's like we're looking at something that we just can't comprehend in a lot of cases.
Yeah. See, okay. So here's my thought of reverse engineering when I was thinking about it. Looking at the Star Trek, what is the prime directive? Which is, if you find a civilization that's not as advanced as you do not mess with their development, because they need to grow on their own. To me, are we that not advanced civilization, and should we not be doing this until we're right as a civilization to do this? Just because we can doesn't mean we should, right?
Yeah, but you know, it's human nature that we will.
Yeah.
You know, the same thing that makes us warlike and aggressive is the same thing that makes us do seemingly impossible things. You know, I look at some of the accomplishments of humanity and the things that we dare to do, And we really are a very striking species with a lot of potential. Unfortunately, it seems like we're determined to drive ourselves into the ground. But, you bring up the Star Trek Prime Directive. A lot of people think, and I think it's quite possible, that there is literally a federation or some kind of galactic alliance of spacefaring civilizations that kind of oversee things, and that they've got different agendas for planet Earth. This planet is probably, from a galactic standpoint, a very valuable piece of real estate. It's in the sweet spot. It's got water. It's got just a wealth of DNA and life. And there's probably a lot of reasons why a lot of different civilizations would have an interest in our planet. So, I think that kind of stuff is going on. And I think we've been given the right to self-determine. And so we are the masters of our own destiny at this point.
So going back to that theme, as far as being watched, they're being careful about us not kind of blowing ourselves up. There have been many reports that there are UAPs, which were formerly called UFOs, above military installations and nuclear facilities. And these UAPs shut down our facilities. So, there's different reasons why you would think that would happen. Why do you think? I mean, do you have a theory as to why they're doing that?
Well, a lot of scientists speculate that, a lot of nuclear explosions could literally tear holes in dimensional space. And so there could be a lot more damage that could occur. And then there's also the idea that, there could be the remnants of an advanced civilization that's been here on the planet that maybe through some kind of previous catastrophe has had to go underground or under the oceans. That's been here and that has advanced technology, and they have a vested interest in keeping us from destroying the planet. So, I think that the non-human intelligence does not mean alien. It doesn't mean they have to come from another planet. I think maybe some of them do, but I think that there's also a lot of other origins, including that they're here right now and they've been here all along. And so they have a vested interest in making sure we don't destroy the place.
Yeah, it's either that or they want to show us they can stop us if they want to, which is not good either.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about the missing scientists.
Sure.
As of last count, I think there was potentially 16 of them that are affiliated together. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. What are your thoughts? So for people who are listening, there are many scientists since 2002 that are either going missing in very mysterious circumstances or dying off in also mysterious circumstances. And a lot of them are connected through Los Alamos, which is also Department of Energy. And I'm not sure if people know, but I'll give you one example, which is Monica Reyes, Monica Reza, which was, to me, that's one of those compelling ones. She's from JPL out here in Pasadena. She has a patent for a mandalloy, which is a specialized nickel-based super alloy, which is used in rockets. So she is hiking with two friends in Angeles National Forest. She's right behind them. 1 second, the next second they turn around and she's gone. She's missing. They've had 12 different agencies trying to find her. The only thing they could find was her hat, and even the GPS that she was using stopped the location she disappeared. So to me, that's the most compelling one, is what is happening, right? So what are your thoughts about what's going on?
Well, the connections between the scientists and even people trying to connect like David Wilcock to this whole thing, there's credence to some of them and there's not credence to others. So I did a little bit of investigating in this. I found some very interesting things. I sent them along to Ross Coulthart to look into. He came out just not too long ago saying there's no connection to any of it. I do not think that that's correct. I think that there are some that are very connected. Specifically, we have General McCaslin. This is the guy that had the keys of the kingdom. If anybody knew what was going on at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base underground in the Blue Room, which we know existed, we know that Wright-Patterson has been the recipient of a whole lot of stuff, and this guy knew. And he was talking to Tom DeLonge. And so, the fact that he disappeared the way he disappeared, they're getting ready to give us this new narrative. And I think that anybody that's a threat to that narrative, people that have knowledge that could contradict the story they're about to tell us, or even worse, people that have maybe looked into being a whistleblower or expressed an interest in sharing the information with humanity, they make it to a very special exclusive list. And we're seeing what happens to them. Monica story, I mean, who disappears into thin air? That's crazy. But if you look at what she did, this metal alloy that she developed was a shape-shifting, memory-retaining alloy. And where have we seen that? Well, we've heard stories of it coming from the Roswell crash. We've seen the material that we now call nitinol, which is a shape-shifting titanium-based memory-retaining alloy. We saw that come out, and basically the story of its origin is simply not true. And so it came out of Battelle Memorial Institute, who is under contract to process materials for Wright-Patterson Air Force Base right around the time of the Roswell crash. So there's a good amount of evidence that material came from this legendary material from this crash. Obviously, it's not definitive, but the circumstances line up. So here's a woman who's working with McCaslin. She's working in classified programs, and she comes up with a shape-shifting, memory-retaining alloy that is working in these rockets. And they're using them in rocket engines. And the reason that it's so helpful is because it literally it's metal that can heal itself pretty much. In the first movie, we put out a video of the stealth bomber literally sealing one of its openings in a way that we cannot explain. So anyway, she was involved in this metal alloy evolution. With materials that probably originated from, metamaterials that were recovered, and she probably knew it. So there's a connection with her and McCaslin. There's another scientist on the list. Bear with me, I have his name. Sorry, I've been doing a little homework here. Let me make sure I get the right guy. Oh yeah, so Frank Werner Maywald, JPL. Now, Frank, who was shot on his front porch by a guy that had stalked him. I mean, the whole thing looked like a professional hit. And then the guy, and I'm hoping I got the right person, the right facts, but the main fact about Frank is that he developed a terahertz sensor. Now, terahertz frequencies have long been rumored to be able to cancel gravity when alloys of magnesium and bismuth and other metals are exposed to terahertz frequencies. It's supposed to create a waveguide that can negate the effect of gravity. Now, a lot of people have studied this. Some people say it's possible. Some people say it's not. This material came from Linda Moulton Howe, where it was tested. I have a video of Travis Taylor way back in the 90s testing this material, and it's literally levitating when it's exposed to terahertz frequencies. So if you're developing a terahertz frequency sensor, what are you doing? You're developing a sensor that could potentially detect these terahertz frequencies that generate anti-gravity. Therefore, you've created a sensor that could detect these craft in our atmosphere. And now you're dead. So yeah, I think there's major connections between a lot of them, and I think some of them not so much. Amy Etheridge,
exactly,
who supposedly killed herself. Did she?
Yeah. She was the one who was doing the anti-gravity stuff. And in 2022, she is telling a friend of hers who is a former intelligence officer with UK, hey, I'm being followed. Something's wrong. I'm being watched. And she tells him in a text, if you see stories that I killed myself, that's not true. That I overdosed, it's not true. And a month later, she's quote unquote found dead and self-inflicting gunshot wound. That is another one that's just mind-boggling.
But what's really interesting is the family, her father is saying, no, she committed suicide, and maybe she did. Yeah, there's a video of her where she appears to be a little tipsy, and there's an element in her eyes that shows that she's a little disturbed. So you just can't be 100% sure. Even the thing with David Wilcock, all the people trying to attach all this conspiracy to that. David had a lot of stuff going on. He couldn't handle it, and he shot himself. Sometimes it's just what it is. And so you have to use a certain amount of discretion and want to be making sure that you're on the skeptical side of everything.
I know when there's
Just
smoke,
because it
though.
might be a conspiracy doesn't mean it is.
Well, I mean, when there's smoke out there, something. I mean, I don't know if they're being taken by foreign governments. Are they being taken by a private entity who may or may not be working with a part of a government? I don't know if they're going in hiding, which could be true. I mean, I always pronounce his name wrong.
Yeah,
McCaslin, a former general, basically is at home, changes his clothes, puts his phone down, his keys down, and walks out of the house. Is never found again. His wife
supposedly with a gun.
Yeah, and his wife supposedly said he doesn't want to be found.
Yeah,
but why?
So, to me, that just points to that he was possibly, look, if you're in the intelligence community and you're that high up the chain, you're going to follow orders and be a part of that community all the way to the end. And if you get some secret instruction that says, hey, you know what, you know too much, you're starting to slip mentally, you need to go find a nice quiet cave and unalive yourself, you're going to follow that order. The one thing that really calls my attention to his case is there's a certain nonchalance about the way his wife is acting. She made some joke about maybe he was abducted by aliens, the statement about maybe he doesn't want to be found. She just doesn't seem like somebody who's freaking out too much. And so I don't know what's going on with that, but it's very suspicious.
Yeah. Now, you talked about your first movie, Revelations, and you talked about the Blue Room in Wright-Patterson Air Force. I watched a lot of UFO shows. That is the first time I've ever heard anybody mention that. So there's a lot of new stuff in the show that you had that I've never heard before.
Yeah, and that's the old movie. Yeah, people should see it. Yeah, we found evidence that there's always been rumors that there's an underground room at Wright-Patterson where they store all this stuff, and it had a nickname. They called it the Blue Room. And all of the FOIA requests and everything else trying to get to the bottom of it, John Greenwald did a lot. They finally found out that the Blue Room was supposedly filmed. And we were able to find out through Freedom of Information rabbit holes that there was a film of something called the Blue Room that was shot at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. It was a project, and that film was supposedly destroyed. But we were at least able to verify that film existed.
So Wright-Patterson, is that the one that eventually got the Roswell crash? Is that, or?
Yeah, they got pieces of it. It got kind of distributed over a few different bases.
Okay.
Michael Schratt knows that story way better than I do, but yeah, and Battelle Memorial Institute, who has been an independent private lab servicing the Air Force in classified secrets for a long time, got a lot of those materials.
So do you think our lifetime will actually see disclosure happen or no?
Some people will argue that it's already happened, and some people will argue that we're never going to get it. Depends on what you mean by disclosure. Is Donald Trump going to suddenly show up at a podium with a manila file folder full of pictures from Roswell and tell us the whole truth about everything, including the origins of these beings and how they connect to our spiritual past? In my opinion, that's never going to happen. We got a guy in the chat, Gray Owl. Shout out to Gray Owl. He's of the mind that, yes, we got to quit looking for government to give us the answers. And in the new film, we get to a point where we're done with government. We're going to have to start looking elsewhere. We can't put this puzzle piece together without looking at the esoteric, the experiencers, the whole nature of reality, the spiritual teachings of the past. We have to quit leaning on Washington, D.C. to get us the truth. They're just not going to do it in a way that's going to satisfy the.
And I suspect that presidents are never told about what's going on, that people who have this information are very closed, secret part of the government, and there's a reason for that. So I don't think any president's ever going to do that. There is one story about, I think was it Eisenhower or was it Truman?
Eisenhower, yeah.
Was it Eisenhower who supposedly met with aliens in Palm Springs? So that's the only one that I've ever heard.
Encounters of the Third Kind was supposedly kind of a riff on that. So yeah, did it happen? There's, again, it's all circumstantial evidence. But the idea that presidents are not read in, they're probably told something, but yeah, I think it's plausible deniability, just like in Independence Day. They don't need to know. And there are people that are controlling this information that are making these decisions, and there's nothing anybody can do about it. So yeah, we're dealing with a deeply compartmentalized group that is in government and industry. They are unaccountable to anybody. They are within an industry. You don't have access to freedom of information. Yeah, these guys that are really running these programs and mastering this technology, we'll never know who they are. They're not going to come out and do podcasts. They're the puppet masters, and they're puppeting right now. It's what we're seeing.
Yeah, it's funny. I was thinking about one of the new names that I learned from the scientists being gone is Ingrid Lane in 2023, who they're just adding it to the list. Have you heard about what happened to her?
No.
Okay, so Ingrid Lane worked for anti-gravity propulsion. That's what she was working on. Brilliant neuroscientist. She goes on a week retreat right outside of her home in El Paso, or around that area. And after a day from this week long, just after a day, she tells her friends, I have to go on a drive and a hike. So she leaves. The next thing they do is there are two people who see her car broken down on Route 144, and they approach her, ask her if she needs help. She says no, but according to his witnesses, she was very adamant about finishing her hike, which reminds you of Close Encounters of the Third Kind in a way. Was she being drawn somewhere? Anyways, so they eventually, she goes missing. So they come and find her car, still in the same place. It looked like it was hit from behind by boulders, hit from front with boulders. She had 3 laptops in there. She had a burner phone in her car, which had not been activated, and her keys were still in the ignition, and she's never been found. And this was in October of 2023, and she was not put in the national data for missing persons until December of 2024. So there's a lot of stuff going on.
Look, anti-gravity, free energy. If you're knee deep in that, you're a target. It's just the way it is. The people that run the planet, they derive their power and their control mechanisms really through energy. It's the instrument that enslaves us all, and for them to give that up, they're not going to do it. They'll stop at nothing to preserve their status quo until they can be the ones in charge of whatever replaces it. They're going to they're not going to roll out new functioning ways of making energy until they've used up every last drop of oil, and they figured out how they could put a meter on something and continue to charge us money. If there was an energy source that came out of one of these craft or was discovered, 0 point energy, any of these types of things that are theorized, that could result in a box that you could put in your house. It's going to power your house and charge your car. All of a sudden, the power structure on this planet completely collapses, and abundance becomes democratic. Everybody can have whatever they want, just because we find a way to create energy that we don't have to sap resources for. Yeah. There's people that'll stop at nothing to keep that from happening.
Yeah, I could totally see that. Absolutely. So I'm sure you've seen the trailer for new Spielberg's movie. Do you guys get an advanced copy of these movies or no?
No, they're keeping a tight lid on that one. Yeah, no, but I don't think anybody has advanced copies of that. Look, I'm part of the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance. Our job is to try to make sure that filmmakers have a resource where they can get factual information. Obviously, Spielberg didn't call us. People think that this movie is going to be some kind of big revelation, and maybe it will be. But if we look at the history of Steven Spielberg movies, they're obviously he's one of the best directors, if not the best director in the world, much respect, but they're movies, and it's entertainment, and it's written by screenwriters, and it's made to follow a traditional path of storytelling. And people say that there's grains of truth in all of his films, and there probably is. And I suppose that Disclosure Day is going to be the same thing. It's going to have grains of truth. Who knows? Maybe a lot of truth. But is it going to be this civilization changing disclosure? I mean, if we're relying on a filmmaker to come out of Hollywood and tell the entire planet the truth that's been kept from us for, centuries, that's a sad thing. So I think we're going to get a great movie. I think we're going to get an eye opener. I think there's going to be some things in there that are true. But it's not going to be, disclosure like we want it to be. And, I have a joke about that. It's like, look, MUFON has 150,000 cases. Okay. We've never had a report of somebody going crazy and building a sandcastle in his living room. We've never had a report of a deer showing up in the bedroom of an experiencer with a cardinal on his antler. And we've never had a report of an alien riding a bicycle in the sky. So are we going to get disclosure from this movie? Probably not. Are we going to get a great movie? I'm sure we are.
Yeah, just like your movie, people need to watch the original first cut Revelation and what's coming up next, because there's a lot of great information, a lot of huge people in these that I think they know some stuff. And you're right, some of them accidentally do reveal stuff that aren't supposed to, but that's what makes it fun.
Look, in the new movie, we have, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say this, we've got one case that is bona fide material from a UFO. Now, does that mean it came from an alien spaceship? Not necessarily. We don't know. But we do know that it's not testing anything terrestrial. It's a compound that does have, we do know what it is, but we don't know what this version is. It's got organic material growing out of it. It's been proven that it's been in space. It supposedly was given to an experiencer and touted as being part of a spacecraft. It's in the movie, and we have it. People can test it. And then we have other material in the movie that we actually go and test, and I turn over to Congress. And this right here, probably not going to be in focus very well. We have a bunch of this. This is a very old UFO case. I went to Ohio in between hearings. I extracted samples, which is in the film, and you can see the weird stuff that happened. And then I took those samples and I turned them over to Kirsten Gillibrand, and Arrow issued a report about these materials. But at the same time, we were having them tested by labs. And then we go into the reason the movie's called Next. And the reason it's called Next is because once we acknowledge that we're in the presence of non-human intelligence, well, then what? It's like people aren't really addressing that. It changes the entire course of humanity. And we have to think about things like how we're going to set up our structures, civilization structures, religions. How does artificial intelligence play into this? How does the nature of reality and simulation theory play into this? How do the tales of the experiencers fit into this big puzzle? So, we're sitting here right now following Washington, D.C. around, hoping we're going to get, there's aliens. Look, we already know that we're being engaged by non-human intelligence, and at some point we're going to have it officially acknowledged. But then what? And that's what the new movie is about. It starts off in Washington, D.C. and takes you all the way to the edge of reality.
So why do you think there's always been a pushback about just this disclosure and other lives outside of Earth? Is it religious space? Is it something different? I mean, why do you think there's always been such a negative pushback about this stuff?
Well, there's a very big contingent inside the government that thinks that this is, that people, Pentagon officials and Department of Defense officials have their share of traditional religious beliefs, and there is a very large contingent. Lou Elizondo talks about it, that believe that this is an angelic, demonic, spiritual force that we shouldn't be poking, so to speak. And the people that feel that way are very set in their beliefs, and they are unswayable. I wish they'd have a little bit more of an open mind, but the fact of the matter is they might be right, that what we have traditionally labeled as angels and demons and spiritual forces through our history and our teachings, that could be part of what we're seeing. I'm not convinced that it's all of what we're seeing, as other people are, but I'm not going to deny them the validity of their point. But when you bring spirituality and religion into the ET question, that's where we find a lot of conflict. And it's probably one of the reasons why they're not telling us that everything that they know, is because we're already seeing the fissures and the fractures among different factions of believers. And with knowledge, it's just going to get worse.
Okay. So UFO sightings around the world, has it gone up in recent years, or has it stayed the same?
UFO sightings overall have gone up, but it's mostly because of mundane things. I'd like to be the Kool-Aid drinking guy that thinks everything in the sky is an alien, but I'm just not that person. MUFON is dedicated to the scientific understanding of UFOs for the benefit of humanity. That excludes us from wanting to be true believers and think that everything that blinks is an alien. 97% of all of the case reports that we get, we are able to explain. Every time SpaceX launches satellites, the phones light up, so to speak. So yeah, and we had that whole drone thing. A lot of people are seeing things in the sky. The orb type craft are pretty much the most common, and there's seeing those more and more. So it's possible that there's more things going on in the sky, and that these things are making themselves more and more apparent and more visible to people. But it's also possible that people are just paying more attention.
So I know you talked about AI for a little bit. I think part of the problem, if I'm wrong, you tell me, is that now people can use AI to fake a lot of photos with UFOs. Have MUFON seen anything coming up like that?
Yeah, but you can't run that stuff past us. We got the best photo and video analysis people in the world. You cannot create an AI image without having it completely embedded with certain metadata. If it's not an original image, whatever image it ends up being will reveal that. The AI is not going to fool people that know what they're doing, and I don't think it's ever going to get to a point where it will, because it's obviously the origins of anything, be it an image. When you take a picture on your phone, it actually records the time of day. It records the geolocation of where that picture was taken. It records the settings on your camera. And if you take that image and you try to alter it in any way and then send it to MUFON or whatever, we can find out what you did in the data. It'll tell us that, hey, this image was opened up in Photoshop. These filters were applied. I mean, the images tell the story in code. And so, yeah, people, if you want to make an AI fake UFO video and throw it on YouTube and get views, sure, but you're not going to fool anybody that knows what they're doing.
Yeah, that's what I like about MUFON. I know they're legitimate. I mean, there's a lot of other organizations out there, but MUFON is the only one that I really trust as far as making sure the investigation is done correctly.
Yeah, we're the only ones that are actually doing investigations. There's
Exactly.
a lot of organizations out there, but we're the only ones that, if you have a really bona fide thing, we'll send people out with, if there's physical evidence, we'll collect it properly, we'll document it. We have our own laboratories. There's just nobody that does what MUFON does.
Yeah. So I want to know, okay, so your movie's going to come out on June 2nd. What else would you like to tell us about the movie that we haven't already talked about?
Well, it's narrated by Matthew Modine. It's got a special appearance by Thomas Jane, the actor from Expanse, and I think he was the original Punisher. He plays Dr. McCoy in an upcoming Star Trek. So having Tommy on board was really cool. The music is by Alan Howarth, the legendary composer that did Halloween. There's it's really funny. There's an opening scene in the movie, and the piano comes up, and one of the people who's watching it goes, "Wow, that sounds kind of like the Halloween music." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's because that's the guy." So that's pretty funny. This movie is a grand adventure. It's fun to watch. It's different than anything else you've ever seen, and people are telling me that after it's over, they're thinking about it 3 days later. And yeah, it's a thought-provoking film. So I hope that people will look for it. Right now, you can pre-order it on Apple. Then it's going to be on Amazon and Apple and Google Play on June 2nd. And you can watch the original Accidental Truth free. The website is accidentaltruthnext.com. go there, sign up for the newsletter. Yeah, I'm looking forward to June 2nd and see how the world reacts.
Yeah, I mean, there's stuff in there it's amazing. I mean, you really go through Congress, you really talk to people who know their stuff. So it's definitely worth watch. And yes, I've seen a lot of UFO shows, but this one is by far the best out of the ones that I've seen, both of them.
Yeah. Oh, that's quite a compliment, Mason. Thank you.
Sure.
It's a crowded field with a lot of talented people making films. So to even be able to swim in that same lake is a privilege.
So what's next for you after this one? Are you going to work on another one?
Well, I'm going to rest for a minute, I think. Okay. It's been literally 2 years of cloak and dagger. I mean, really, there's been a lot of times when, you get a little paranoid and you wonder if you're going to get in trouble. And, this whole UFO thing, you just have to come to live with the understanding that you're probably under surveillance at all times. There's been times I've come home and things been moved around in my house, like they're letting me know that they can get to me. And that all sounds paranoid and silly, but it's real. Rather through my affiliation with MUFON or the fact that I'm making courageous films that's not afraid to poke the bear, so to speak. I live with the realization that I have no privacy. Everything I say or do is probably being watched or recorded or monitored. And that's just how you have to live.
Okay. Well, then again, I'm even more thankful that you came here and talked to us today. So I hope everybody watches. Pre-order the new movie coming out, which is The Accidental Truth. Next, Beyond UFO Disclosure. It's going to come out on June 2nd. Of this year, which is a couple of weeks away, or not even a week. And yes, watch the first one, which was Accidental Truth UFO Revelations.
Yep, free on YouTube, so everybody should be able to see it. And we got our guy in the chat room, Gray Owl. He'll understand when I say blue.
Okay. Yeah, the Blue Room. Check out the Blue Room. Oops. Because that is something that I had never heard of before, and I think it's awesome. Okay, well, thank you so much, Ron, for being a guest with us today. I appreciate it. So hopefully we'll get to do this another time, maybe after the movie comes out, and talk about what's next for you.
Hey, I'd love to come back on. We'll have a good idea.
Okay.
How the public is receiving it, and I'm waiting with bated breath. I mean, the truth of the matter is, you put these things out and it takes 3 months from the time it gets turned into the distributor till the time it comes out. And I'm petrified. Accidental Truth was a pretty decent film, and it's a tough act to follow. And I took a lot of chances with this new movie that it might be the hill I die on, but we'll find out soon enough.
Okay. Well, thank you again. And everybody, please watch the original and pre-order the next one. Okay.
Thanks a lot, Mason.
So much. Thanks for listening to the SCV Law and Life podcast. If today's conversation gave you something to think about, make sure to follow or subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. I'm Mason Roshdian, and I'll see you next time for more conversations on law, life, and what really moves the needle.